I gotta get a.
Me doing the presentation, but is there things specifically that you think you need to stand up and speak about? I mean, what's your?
Well, we're
There's only one town council person appointment,
Right.
and then there's a surveyor appointment.
That's right. I think that's right. But the.
2015, I had 17 inches in the house.
Dr. Steve?
Sorry.
Did you say?
Yeah, I did
So
see
you're
that.
indicating that they will.
They say they will provide service. Yep. When they say a lift station is necessary, does that mean that that service will include a lift station that they will provide? I'm just curious. Yeah, okay. Enough on that. We'll
You need more information.
continue, we have more information. Any other questions for Chris on the staff report?
I have none.
No, I didn't have any either. Okay, is the petitioner here? Yes, sir, would you come up to the microphone and identify yourself and, if you, I assume you have some things you want to add to Chris's staff.
I certainly do, thank you. Thank you again. My name is Steve Alexander, and my company is Prince Alexander Architects in Indianapolis. My wife and I have owned this property for almost 30 years now. And I'll answer the first question first before I get into my presentation. We had several meetings with the utility company before we ever made the application, and presented with them the exact number and GPM expectations of the sewer. Our civil engineer attended those meetings and determined that the lift station will have holding capacity. It'll be a dowsing pump, not a gravity sewer. And so the 3-inch line is more than adequate for the GPM that we'll be providing.
Okay.
And that was the basis of them providing the letter of approval for the sewer service. An architect from my office is currently in that meeting with further coordination for that. It was also kind of the same point about the water sewer size. They have approved a 3-inch water main service for the property too. So you have to understand that RVs aren't like houses. A house might use 300 gallons per day, where an RV might use 30 to 50 gallons per day at most. So it's a significant lesser amount in use by RVs. So in 1993, when we acquired the land, I was a much younger person. Over the years, I've been able to be involved in several projects, initiatives, economic development initiatives in Brown County and Nashville. About 11 years ago, I helped fund a hospitality study, market study of Nashville and Brown County that ended up in a report along with the town that was considering a water park as part of a hotel development. That was one of the initiatives that the town was advocating in economic development. Later, a couple of years later, I participated in a housing development study. There was a need for more affordable housing in the area, and was active in that initiative as well. I appreciate Planning Commission staff diligently guiding us through compliance with the ordinance. And I think the most important thing that came out of the work and the diligence that Chris has done is that we've identified the technical compliance with the ordinance, and that all of the sub-categories of technical compliance, setbacks, landscape buffers, and all of the required permits that were approvals of driveway, water and sewer are in compliance. We've been following the chatter on Facebook and concern of the community and the people, and trying to get a pulse on that and understand there's a concern about traffic and outsiders coming to town and things like that. But over the 30 years, actually I was much more involved in the 60s and late 50s and 60s when my grandfather was building Sweetwater and Cordray Lakes. We spent a lot of time here, and it meant a lot to me to be able to be involved in Brown County's economic development. And the years that I've been here lead me to think about my family and their next generation and the generation after that. I think that my sons will be the future owners of this property. I've owned it for 30 years. I think we'll own it for another 30 years. And when we're done, I expect my sons to own it. So the characterization that we see in some of the chatter and the concerns that we're outsiders is not an accurate depiction of that. My grandmother's mother's maiden name was Hamblin, and they settled Hamblin Township in Brown County in the 1830s. We're not just passing through. So one of the things that came up in the process in the last 30 years roughly is to consider what is the least impactful development that could happen on this land. Our original plan had a hotel and conference center and retail and senior housing, and that's what motivated us to be involved in the housing study project a few years ago. The takeaway is that in consideration of this particular portion of the property, that the ability to participate in what the county's comprehensive plan identifies in economic development is promoting tourism and natural environment. We hired environmental scientists, a gentleman named Matt Kirchhoff, who's our aquatic management, that's working with us on enhancements to the natural environment, including what he calls the 3 Bs. Campground is a outdoor education area where our environmental scientists can teach classes and things about the wilderness, so the campers have that benefit. Also, as part of Matt's contract is negotiations. He represents what used to be called the Indian, to receive their flowering bulbs that are to be thrown away. Essentially every year they replant their bulbs and they rearrange their art compositions, their outdoor sculptures. And Matt has arranged for us to receive a portion of those bulbs and sculptures. So we'll be mixing in public art on the property as well. The art emphasis and the opportunity to take advantage of the wilderness as an education opportunity for campers, I think is really critical and really plays into the Brown County Comprehensive Plan. And we're really excited about the ability to do that and promote Brown County and the town of Nashville really nationally in the luxury RV industry. I grew up camping. I never got to go too far because we were kind of a poor family, but I was able to take my kids camping. I'm a big fan of camping, and I have friends with RVs that I hope to come here that are over $500,000 each. And when I say luxury camping, we expect that market sector to be the consumers that are falling in love with Brown County through the development of this RV park. That all being said, I think with the help of staff and our decades of research in the market and the people of Brown County, I know there's a lot of anxiety about change. And one of the things that we've tried to pay attention or extract from the chatter is a concern about traffic and the existing problems in the roadways that are here, the wrecks on 46 and the speeding on the back roads and accidents that happen are all happening now before we do anything. But what we do have to offer, the benefit of your approval of this special exception, is a dramatic increase in property taxes. We pay about $3,600 a year for the last 30 years. Property taxes are estimated to rise about $50,000 to $60,000 a year. If that would have been implemented 30 years ago, that would amount to quite a little pool of resources. There's also the innkeeper's tax that will amount to around $80,000 to $100,000 a year to the Convention and Visitors Bureau. Approximately $112,000 to $118,000 a year. I want to point out, these numbers I'm giving you are on a 50% occupancy rate of the campground. We tried to use conservative financial projections on this. If there's higher occupancy rates, those revenue projections, property tax, innkeeper taxes would all be significantly higher.
Is that assumption 50% for 12 months?
Actually, the 50% is for 9 months. We expect that in the winter, again, kind of going back to low impact development, that during the winter there would be significantly less occupancy. Sure. And finally, sales tax revenue, although that goes to the state, it does benefit the county's distribution to counties for schools and roads would be about $112,000 to $120,000. So overall, that's a significant impact positively for the financial conditions of the town and the county to the school corporation. And in that, the project does not impact higher student count or other services necessarily. There's not a lot of fires in RVs like there could be in old cabins and houses and so forth. And we will have our own security on site. So part of that 12-person staff is a security person that will help alleviate calls that other campgrounds might have. We will have security on site. I appreciate the opportunity. Like I say, we've brainstormed this for a long time, trying to find just the right mix, and we've been meeting with other economic development people about the next phase when we get this one done. we're here for a long time. I appreciate it, all your help, especially Christine and the work that she's done on the project, and look forward to answering all the questions that everyone has.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. First you get to answer our questions. if we
Yes,
have
sir.
any. Does anybody have any questions for the petitioner?
So what's the purpose of your engineer attending the Nashville utility meeting tonight? What's on the agenda as it relates to this project?
We are not on the agenda. They simply asked that we attend.
Okay,
We did make a presentation, the utility is supportive with capacity and interested in receiving the revenue from utility usage.
so the wastewater treatment plant operator didn't sign your sewer availability form. Was that just an inadvertent omission? 'Cause they signed the one for the water, so.
That must have been an inadvertent omission.
Okay.
That was part of, I probably stapled to it and missed it. We can make sure that's properly signed in the file.
So are you going to pay for the lift station or is it
Yes,
utility?
we
Okay.
do.
And is it your understanding then that once that lift station is in place, there will be appropriate and reasonable sewer service for all 185 sites?
That's correct.
Okay.
I think that's a logical thing that the commission does, is ask for those letters in advance.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for the petitioner?
I've got a couple.
Sure, go ahead.
This may not have anything to do with it, but how much, or do you know yet, how much each RV site, the rental is gonna be?
Our pro forma is based on $46 a night.
Okay. And how big is each site? I think it says in there, but if you could tell me.
The sites vary in size based on the class of the RV. Class A sites are 80 feet long roughly and about 30 feet wide. Class B and Class C sites vary, and they're categorically shorter vehicles with different tow vehicles. But the bigger ones are for the $450,000, $500,000 RVs.
So, like, on number 6, it talks about the 185 individual camping sites. And then it says, independent structures serving as structural tents or other similar camping facilities.
We have 11 glamping sites identified out of the 180 or so that are, glamping is a new thing. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. It's, you know, so they're luxury tents or other semi-permanent structures that are fully furnished hotel suites effectively.
Okay.
Would there be, I was handed a thumb drive and I put it.
Oh, yes, thank you. I forgot all about that. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I think there's a couple of pictures of that in there.
Oh, okay. A couple more questions.
Sure.
On number 7, it talks about you're gonna have food and beverage.
Yes.
So are you gonna have a restaurant? Are you gonna be cooking food, or is it all gonna be like camp store stuff?
Camp Store has frozen pizzas. We're not having deep fryers and a whole waitress system, but there will be some hamburgers and hot dogs and things like that in the Camp Store.
Okay.
It's not, I would not characterize it as a restaurant.
And then the innkeeper's tax. My understanding was that campgrounds do not pay innkeeper's tax. Now the glamping suites might,
Yes.
because they're all gonna be hooked up to sewers and stuff, it sounds like you said, a motel.
Right. We built it into our pro forma. We're expecting to pay it.
Okay.
I have a question. Chairman.
Sure. Go right ahead.
Down there in the general findings under number 6, it states independent structures serving as structural tents, and maybe you already discussed this with the glamping. or other similar camping facilities are requested. Can you amplify on that a little bit?
Sure, it's those 11 glamping sites. If you would click to we've got a couple of pictures in here of what a glamping structure looks like. There you go, that on the right-hand lower level there.
Oh, a treehouse tent.
Yeah, it's a wood platform with a stairway, and it does have a toilet and a shower in it, so they have a king-size bed and a couple of lounge chairs. That's what glamping is. It's very popular out west in the Rockies and Southwest.
So that's what you're referring to as structural tents?
That's correct.
Okay, all right. And I also noticed that someone came up and handed you something, or your phone or something, where you had read off of it that apparently there was a meeting going on this evening from the Nashville Utilities Commission or whatever, and that they went ahead and gave you.
What's your password? Oh, it's Eric. Oh, Eric's here. Eric Muehlhausen's project architect for this campground project at Prince Alexander, and has been working with the planning staff and the town of Nashville and helping coordinate civil engineering. Our civil engineer is not here tonight. That will be doing all of the utility engineering, all the floodway relations with the Department of Natural Resources, and coordinating all of the.
You apparently got some kind of an okay from the county utilities?
Yes, sir.
That they are willing to receive all of the wastewater, both black and gray water generated from this facility to their treatment facility?
Correct.
Using your collection system?
Correct.
Using their conveyances though to the wastewater treatment plant, is that correct?
Yeah, so we just talked about that in capacity, and we know that's an issue.
You mind speaking?
I'm sorry. Yeah, we were talking about that next door, and the capacity talk came up, and we didn't get into the nuts and bolts of it, but there's a lift station across, is it ArcU lift station? They said that they think that is pretty adequate. It'd also be a good location for a holding tank in the case that there was limited capacity. So without getting into the really the depths of the engineering, which we've got everyone working on, they felt that it was adequate.
Right. The plant itself has capacity. There wasn't any question about that, and that's why, like I said before, we had numerous meetings with the utility before we ever started the zoning process, because we wanted to make sure, here's our plans, this is how many units we're gonna have, this is what the GPM is gonna be, make sure that there's capacity, and that's what led to their approval of will serve letters, if you will.
So they have no concerns with any additional capacity?
They've not expressed that to us.
Okay. On another subject here, under number 7, you have down here outdoor sports outfitters.
Mm-hmm.
Could you explain that a little bit?
Sure. One of the things we want to do is promote canoeing and kayaking and mountain biking. And so we've been doing research on finding an outfitter partner that can help organize mountain biking tours at the state park. We know that several of the campgrounds around us have horse riding and equestrian facilities. We want the outfitters to be able to promote and schedule trips for individuals or groups and promote all sorts of outdoor activity. We'd be glad to put the no gun thing in there if you like. I mean, we said your group homes don't have guns, so we're not going to allow firing guns on our property.
Okay, as a follow-up, this is back to your engineer. If you are approved and you do hook into the city treatment facility, this will be under an NPDES permit?
The portion of it that is not on our property, so, all the sewer lines that are on our property will be private sewers. It's when we get into the public right-of-way on Parkview that will be public sewer licensure requirements.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. I have two follow-ups for Chris later on, but.
Okay, all right. I get, just, if you have any questions? I have a couple. Okay, I just have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Can you help me understand what the difference is between a luxury RV park and a regular RV park? I think the glamping must be part of it, but.
Yeah, sure. The first thing is that all of the roads are paved and all the campsites have a concrete slab upon which the RV sits. You might see other RV parks in the vicinity that are all gravel or just kind of helter-skelter, parking things. These are very structured and obviously have water and sewer to every campsite, but they also have 60 amp breakers at every campsite too. And they have high-speed internet. One of the initiatives that we'll be undertaking is extending fiber to the campsite from town. So that'll be beneficial to all the landowners along that way to be able to have fiber. So those things, but also the amenities, the quality of the clubhouse and the swimming pool and the amenities, the service amenities that will be available on site. So for instance, grocery delivery, ice delivery, firewood delivery to your campsite are part of that luxury service that you might not find at another campground.
Could I add something to that?
Sure, please.
So another aspect is that the RVs themselves, I don't know if you've talked on this at all, but there's an age.
You mentioned $500,000 RV.
Yeah,
That's the
well,
only
but-
comment we've had.
Sure, well, a lot of them probably will be. But there'll be an age limit to the RVs themselves. So you'll be required to have within the last 10 years, for example, we're still working through the specifics of those requirements. There's also some size requirements, but specifically it's geared more towards that destination camper who's got a lot of extra income and wants to travel in luxury and have a 5-star hotel all around them. I don't have that myself, but some people do.
No, I don't either. So I'm guessing it's a minimum size requirement you're talking about,
Right.
not a maximum
Right.
size.
Yeah.
I guess the other question I have for you, you've owned this property for close to 30 years, so you've driven into it on Old State Road 46 a lot, and you know about the condition of that road and the steep hill that's blind that you climb up and the nearly 90-degree corner that you have to turn to get to the driveway for this place. Do you have any concerns about inviting 100 or so large RVs to drive in and out of that on a regular basis?
That's certainly one of the bits of chatter we've observed and sort of the comments in the letters that have been shared with us to the commission. So we do understand that, and my understanding the speed limit there is 30 miles an hour, but it's regularly, I think people know that they're not the ones that are going over 30 miles an hour.
I don't mind a little laughing, but I really don't want to interrupt anybody who's speaking, anybody from the audience or.
Thank you. I would volunteer that we participate with, I'm not sure if that's, the center line is town limits on one side and county on the other side, or exactly what the agreement is between the town and the county, but I do think there needs to be some slow down signs, please comply with the speed limit, whoever it is that's speeding.
Well, I think there is already a slow down sign up there near the church. So, yeah, that's there. I'm not so much concerned that people are going to speed and get into trouble. I'm concerned about the size of the vehicles and the sight distance and the degree of that turn. and the width of the roads,
Sure, sure.
and the condition of the shoulders, which isn't bad, isn't it?
Yeah, well,
But-
one of the things, although our driveway permit was not required to have an accel decel lane, I think that might be a good place to start. And some flashing lights coming down the hill, things like that. There are traffic control devices like that that can be incorporated that we're more than willing to participate in the final permit process.
You know, the state seems to be in a flurry of activity along those lines lately. at least
Yes.
In this county.
Yeah, agreed. So, like I say, we're more than willing to participate, whether it's the county highway that was not, like I say, was not required as part of the driveway permit. But we are absolutely more than willing to work with the guys over there and do some aggressive things to slow traffic down and provide safe means of access.
Again, I don't think the issue is speed. For me, the issue is not speed.
It's shocking how fast people come down that hill. I don't deny that. Every time we're out there, they're going 60 miles an hour through that corner.
It's a bit of a different vantage point from sitting up on the RV too, so the
Right.
hill is kind of viewed a little bit differently, but it is a valid point.
Yeah, it's true. You see over it sooner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And clearing out the roadside there, it's pretty blind with all that overgrowth, we plan on doing that. That's gonna make a big difference for visibility through there.
Yeah, that would,
Things like that. We do, you probably don't follow me on Facebook, but we do a lot of city planning, traffic planning projects, kind of things in our office, not necessarily traffic engineering, but considering how to make communities safer. That's what we do.
thanks for that. I don't have any other questions. If nobody else on the board does.
I do.
Yes, Randy, go right ahead.
Like with any private recreational development, you're gonna be generating certain waste streams.
Sure.
Solid waste streams. How do you intend to address that?
Did you say solid waste? Trash?
Trash,
Yeah.
refuse.
Sure. We will have a commercial dumpster, and actually one of the features of the luxury RV park is the maintenance staff picks up the trash at every single site every day and takes it to the enclosed dumpster area.
So your people will be doing that?
That's
picking it
correct.
up on site and taking it to the dump site there on?
That's correct.
Okay. And then you're gonna contract with someone else to come in?
For ribbon cutting, say.
Sure. We want to be open for business next summer.
Okay.
That's our plan. We've selected our hospitality management partner that's going to be running the project for us. Has been involved in several of the projects, hotels that we've developed in Indianapolis. So there'll be a hospitality manager, and there will be press about it, and we want to start scheduling events to take advantage and help promote Brown County arts and wilderness, whether it's through mountain biking events or things like that. We have some room to really do some neat stuff.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Robin Rosenberg. I'm kind of going more of a question.
Is it a question in favor of the petition?
It's kind of the question that kind of makes the decision for it. So the BZA basically is saying, it's supposed to say, yes, if we approve that this land could be used this way, and all those conditions be met, which doesn't have anything to do with whether or not the sewer works eventually or not. You're just saying, yes, the land can be used this way, and if they meet all those conditions, then they move forward. But you can rezone it or approve it, and then they don't meet those conditions, and the land just stays the same. correct?
That is my understanding, yes.
Okay, that's where I was going with that. I wanted to make sure that
Yep.
everybody realizes if those conditions aren't met, then the land doesn't get touched this way. So that's something that I think is very important for everybody to realize. This is only one small part of the whole big picture. That's what I wanted to get across. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Household work elsewhere. And I often like to say, we're 20 miles from the edge of anywhere. So if Family Dollar or IGA or CVS doesn't have it, and you need it right away, there goes half a day. So what is the trade-off? Why are we here? Why do we stay when most of us have already raised fiber? I can see the stars at night because there isn't light pollution. I can go to bed and sleep because it's quiet and peaceful. We can see wildlife in an area that is a major corridor. What is the vision for Brown County? What is the vision for Brown County? Tear apart the wildlife and ecosystem? Pave, cement, and gravel it? More light and noise pollution? More runoff in Salt Creek? Use up our precarious water levels? What about human resources? Stretch our strained volunteer fire department? We're letting people come into our community and use up our resources that are not endless. Is it going to be worth it? If we can't have an overall vision for this county that benefits our natural resources and those who call it home, then I ask you, why are we still living here? Thank you.
Thank you for that.
1408 and 1412. Just a few comments right off. Just in the construction, destruction they've been doing, they've pulled in my driveway and torn up the driveway, and I've had put, my daughter and son live there, had to put no trespassing signs up. But I was born in the house across the street, so I'm familiar with that property. And it's flooded in 59, 60, and 61. My dad lost everything in his crops in the field. We had the 200 acres across where he's talking about. In 1992, I applied for the 20 acres I have across for a campgrounds, and I was denied because it was in floodplain. Over the 70 years that I've lived there, it's never flooded. That property is a lake when it floods, just like the gentleman would say. Sorry about the fireworks too. So I'm guilty, okay? But you know, the things that concern me are the road, the bridge. The last time that bridge was redone was either the late 50s or early 60s. So it's in disarray. Certainly not going to hold a several thousand pound
I noted with a certain expectation that one of the requirements was that they could not materially and permanently damage any neighborhood properties. I would believe that I would be materially and permanently damaged by this development. I can imagine 186 fires burning at my footstep with the smoke pouring up into my property. I don't think I could tolerate that. I believe that the value of my property right now on Zillow is $173,000. Now it's just a little 2-bedroom house, but and I know that Zillow is an exaggeration, But I can imagine I couldn't sell that for a plug nickel if I had that campground at my foot. Okay? So I believe that I will be materially and permanently damaged by this development. So under those conditions, you cannot approve this development. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
He Road.
Thank you.
This is what they said on Google. Living next to an RV campground, property values will plummet. Plummet, that is the word they used. Homes will sell at 7 to 13% below the market value. Okay, I agree with everybody else. Now, when he's talking about traffic, I'm not talking about speed, I'm talking about width. On that curve down there, that 90-degree curve, it is rare that somebody doesn't stop to let somebody go by. Okay, you cannot get 2 cars to go by there on that curve. And then Clay Lick has the hairpin turn. Okay, what I really suggest, it would be
Brown County resident, and I'll keep it short. I think that in view of community progress, community satisfaction, it would be very irresponsible for you to even consider okaying this without a thorough, complete, independent, professional traffic impact study.